Hello and welcome to the show. Honey, get ready for a good conversation today with a few good men who want to set the record straight about how women see and hear the fellas in our own lives. Today, we have a panel of distinguished gentlemen who are here for some real talk about everything from love, communication, family matters, and yes, even the bro code. Gentlemen, pleasure to have you.
How you doing?
Hi, how are you? I will allow you to introduce yourselves.
All right, my name is Marquette Weaver. I'm from Lithonia / Decatur, Georgia.
I understand the slash, all right. Mario?
My name is Mario Reyes. I am a public speaker and community activist. I'm of the west side of Atlanta now, but originally from the Bronx, New York.
Yes, indeed. No one can tell.
How you doing? My name is Anthony Clark. I'm a publisher with 3C Publishing. I own Funnel Cake Heaven in Stockbridge. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. Kirkwood and Edgewood, Zone 6.
Gotcha.
Okay. My name is Dr. Aldewan Tart. I'm from Lithonia, Georgia as well. Went to high school, Marquette. All right. So we have to represent the east side.
Right.
Yes, indeed.
Yes,
But
sir.
what I love is that you are all so very different that men across the country are going to hear and relate and connect. And women are going to know somebody. You're going to remind somebody of somebody who they know, right?
In a good way, hopefully.
In a very good
Right.
way. And just to be clear, just to get some logistics, raise your hand if you're single. Raise your hand if you're married. And all four of you are fathers, which I absolutely love. So I know one of the things that really is sort of the common denominator with all of you is this conversation about expectations, the expectations particularly of Black men. So I want to dive in just quickly before we listen to something that had a lot of people talking about expectations. What did you mean when you talk about, and to my producers, about the expectations that are on men?
I personally feel like the expectations on men are beyond the traditional roles. We started off as just being the providers, being the breadwinners, and now it's taking a toll in which now it's more commercialized, and we're no longer allowed to. There's a revolution and redefinition of manhood going on right now, in which we're trying to get more familiar with how we emote and the confident ways in which we could do so. And a lot of times women encourage it, but then they suppress how we do it.
And do you mean in a sense of being able to express when things aren't going well, when things aren't right and perfect and everything is just going great?
Very much so. I feel like the emotions, the one emotion that men are supposed to have is anger. Not realizing that that's a byproduct of how we truly feel. If we're able to identify how we truly feel and are able to manage the ways in which we cry, a lot of times
Pain,
men don't cry through eyes.
Yeah.
We cry through substance abuse, alcoholism, womanizing, and being able to manage those responses. I think that's where, and lack of judgment in doing so would help the conversation.
Expectation. Yes, indeed. And Marquette, I can tell you're itching to get into this conversation.
No, I think expectations, I think they are fair in some cases when it comes to men. I feel that that without them, it kind of sets the bar, sets the tone on relationships or whatnot, per se. So, I think the biggest respect for all men that's common is just the respect factor. That's the most common.
You both lit up there.
Well, for me, there are a lot of unspoken expectations out there.
Like
when
what?
It comes to,
Tell me more.
So, I wrote a book called Broken, Bruised, and Confused. And a lot of us have been broken, bruised, and confused. And a lot of the unspoken expectations come from people not really knowing what it is that they expect from us. So the communication level is not as effective as it should be when it comes to what women desire from us as men.
Dr. Tart, you're a therapist.
Yeah.
You hear this and some version of this every day in your practice, right?
Yeah.
Are men feeling like they have more of a voice?
Well, what's surprising is that they don't know that most men value being successful in relationships above business. Now, we want to be both, but the studies show we'd rather be successful. If we had to pick one, we'd rather be a successful family man and fail at business than the other way around.
You're nodding.
And they don't. That's not communicated. So we want. Who wants to fail at relationships over and over again? None of us.
Right.
But it's a lot for us to learn. It's a new language. Our current marriages, our future marriages, my brother, are not going to be like our fathers and grandfathers. So we have to come through and be able to be different because the world is different.
Yeah, understood. Well,
And
so
that's
that
where the redefinition of manhood comes into play, in recognizing that we got provided toolboxes from those fathers and grandfathers, but we have to update that tool set to handle the problems of today and manage the families of today.
And it starts with conversations like this among fellas, right? But there was one woman who went viral for a conversation that she had with a gentleman who picked her up to take her on a date. She was running a little late. I think you know where we're going. For her, it was not the Cheesecake Factory. For a whole lot of us, we like, let's go. But let's take a listen to that, and I want to talk about that here.
You expect a man to go all out on the first date. Is that right?
I mean, you're supposed to. When you take out a beautiful woman and you're courting her, because I get courted. So you're courting her, right? You're supposed to take care of her. You're supposed to cover her. You're supposed to protect her, cherish her, treat her well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you've been pretty
And then-
nice, but I mean,
And then-
Cheesecake Factory.
It went on and on and on.
Right.
And because I want to hear what the fellas say, I'm zipping and listening.
Well, I'll say this. I'll just point the first thing out that I have an issue with, that is the courting part, right? For me, it's dating, courting, and marriage, right?
Okay.
So her expectations of what she is supposed to receive at that time in the beginning stages, I think is kind of a little bit over the top.
Okay.
You know,
An
definitely over the top.
Understatement. To you, Mario, there is what? Irritation, frustration when you hear.
I get frustrated, and it's primarily because there is a huge disconnect right now for men in feeling that our masculinity is tied to what we could provide financially. We have no problem. If you want to track where a man's priorities are, track where he spends the least amount of what he has. If a man is abundantly rich and he's willing to spend that money, that's not saying much. But if he doesn't have a lot of time and he's carving out time for you, that means you are his priority.
I want to, before we run out of time, just quickly, your reaction when you saw this trending.
Really, the unspoken expectation and the ineffective communication for me is always the same thing. So
She wasn't a lady. I didn't like her. I watched
Wow,
my
that
brothers.
is really-
I just didn't like her. I mean, because it was more about her versus going to get to know the guy. We want you to be genuinely interested in us and get to know who we are and just be warm and nice, right? Automatically, we eliminated her as the mother of our children, eliminated her, introduced us to the mom within the first 5 seconds. She didn't know that.
Right.
But we all were like, nah, scratch, next.
Next. Speaking of
I felt
next,
sorry for the guy in the car.
I
Like,
think
bruh.
everybody felt sorry for the guy in the car.
Comes out.
That's a wrap. All right, so let's stand by. We're going to have a good start to another great conversation. When we return, Marquette, Mario, Anthony, and Dr. Tard are going to help decode the do's and don'ts of the bro code. And don't worry, fellas, they're not violating. They're just translating, if you would. Stay with us. We'll be right back.